Welcome you to JZ Halls. So we're going to build this engine today. I'm going to do my best to show you how to build it correctly, and also I'm going to give away all of my tips and tricks. So let's have a look at these components that we've got then. So we are going to be running a set of Manly pistons. We're going to run that set of Manly rods. We're going to use ARP 2000 main studs. We're going to use Cleveite bearings for this engine. This is the standard tolerance bearing. We've got a brand new water pump, brand new oil pump, brand new piston squirters. And as you can see, the caps are all still in their bags. The crank is still wrapped up from the other day when we had it all cleaned. So we know that there is no contamination on this engine straight away. The block is still wrapped up from the other day after we painted, prepped and put the core plugs in. And now we're going to start unpackaging all of this kit, lay it all out. My bench is already wiped down. In the most sterile environment that I can create in this building. I would love to have a climate controlled room, but I can't. I'm stuck with what I've got to work with. But as you can see, the bench is perfectly clean. Any material that is larger than 0.02 of an inch, if it gets inside to your engine and it gets between the bearings, it will destroy it. So we have to make sure it's all going to be clean and assembled very cleanly as well. So let's start laying all of this out and we can crack on with building this engine. First of all is pistons. You can take all the rim packs out, circlips, instructions, and the pistons. So it's been to the machine shop already and they have already marked out the piston size for us. So this will be for their reference when they bore and hone the block. So we'll visually inspect all the pistons that come out and we'll start lining them up. First box down. These are our big end shells. Our thrust washers. And our mains. We also have our piston squirters. These are the original bolts for these squirters. And these are our connecting rods. If you look at the rods, you'll already tell that they have been end-to-end balanced. So we have all the information right here and the total weight of the rod already. So what I will be doing is hand picking a rod and a piston to average out the weight of all of these components. You can see we have got a 0.6 of a gram difference from the small end, from the big end, for 449.1 grams, and the heaviest one we have got is 449.7. The lightest rod at the top on the small end is 200.3 grams and the heaviest is 200.8. So we're plus or minus 1 gram at the moment already, even how this is packaged up. So the first thing I'm going to do is lay these rods out. I'm going to keep them in the boxes so I've got the weights until later on. Now we're going to do the ring packs. So we have a chrome moly top ring, cast iron scraper ring, and some oil control rings. On the scraper ring, you'll see there's a little dimple at the top of it. That will be at the top. On the chrome molly ring, there is some writing here. That will be the top. You can also tell by the chamfer of the ring as well. The chamfer on the inside of the ring is so the gases can come down the side of the piston, behind the back of the ring, and as the explosion happens, it will want to push the ring out. Right guys, this is how you lay your engine out before you start building it. You can be assured then that you've got every component that you need. There's no rings missing from a pack, we've got all 6 rods, we've got all the pistons laid out, we've got all the bearings, we've got all the thrusters, all the mains, we've got the circuits out, the piston squirters, we're not missing anything. So we know now that we can start building this engine and it will go together perfectly. So this is laid out. Next thing I do, I'm going to start doing some measuring. These are some of the tools that you're going to need. We have a 3 to 4 inch micrometer and we have a bore gauge. Now, if you trust your machinist and he's good with his tolerances, you can miss this step. I trust my machinist, but this is on video. So I'm going to show you how to check your tolerances to make sure they're bang on. First of all, these have already been marked 86.88 millimeters. So this is an 87mm bore for this engine. The engine itself had a ringland failure and it pretty much gouged into the block, so we had to take it out this big. First of all, I'm going to measure the piston. So I'm just going to drop it on the back of the skirt. I'm just feeling for a little bit of resistance for it. As you can see here, it's on the back of the skirt. And I'm just dragging it. I can feel there's a little bit of resistance on that now. So we know that is the size of the piston. That's the largest part of the piston at the bottom of the skirt. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to zero the bore gauge. That is zeroed. Tilt it a little bit. It does move. Now we know this bore gauge is set to the same size as what the piston is. We're now going to drop this into the bore and check. We have 110 microns, which is about 4/1000 of an inch. So this bore is 110 microns over the size of the piston. Now I'm going to unwrap this block and check all of them. No taper on that one, and no taper on that one. So that's the top and the bottom done. Now we'll just double check to make sure there's no ovality in the bore. So 2 micron ovality, maximum being 3, but I will check it again. So I'm going to set this to 0 now. back. It's basically spot on again, maybe 1 micron. So I am now happy that the bores are good. They are true. They have no taper in them whatsoever. The ovality is good. The cross hatching looks good as well on this bore. Could do a little bit coarser, but I'm happy the bores are good. Right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to start assembling and weighing the rods and the pistons. Right, so we are back and I have got my scales. This is a basic balancing way of balancing all of this up. There will be differences with all the balancing weights, but it's a good place to start. I use a dry marker pen on my stainless steel table, and we're just going to weigh everything. That's the first thing to start. So we'll grab number 1 piston and we will weigh it and write down the figures. 352.6. The next thing we will do is we will do the small end weights and the big end weights from the boxes. So 200.3 or 9.1. So now we have some weights to work with. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my calculator. I'm just going to add them all up. So now we've got the total weights, and our smallest, oh sorry, our lightest, one 100.1, our heaviest 1101.8. 1.7 grams. So that's the difference between all of these components, all laid out, weighed, measured, and we've got a 1.7 gram difference between the lightest and the heaviest. Now we can start looking and being, right, what can we hand pick to equalize these weights out with the components that we've got without doing any machine work. So we're back. I've just had a quick scan through all these figures and I can tell straight away what we need to do. We are going to move number 4 piston, which is the lightest piston, and we're going to swap it with number 6, which is fairly heavy. So we're going to do 4 and 6 swap. So now we just need to change these figures. 3, 5, 2. 3, 5, 1.4 and 3, 5, 2.4. That's the first change I'm going to do. So I can now wipe this and that. And go back. .6 grams. So from that one change we now have an average of 0.6 grams over the entire assembly. So we are getting there. We are getting definitely closer. We can take these clips and these clips. We can drop 5 there, actually get this down to a 3, and then we can get this 5 here, change that to a 6 and get a 9. We actually now 0.5 grams. 0.5 grams. So over this entire assembly, we have now got a 0.5 gram difference just from moving a few parts around, and that is good to go. For a street package, 0.5 grams, it's absolutely fine. If we were doing a drag engine or race engine, we would get these absolutely spot on. We will also be balancing the crank as well and getting that and the entire rotating assembly, and we will get that absolutely spot on. And then we've got no worries about buzzing it up to 10,000 RPM. This engine will be slightly overstocked, so maybe kind of 8,000 RPM. It's having springs as well, and cams, so that's good. We can buzz this to nearly 8,000, but I'm happy with a 0.5 gram difference between this entire assembly. I say the small ends are pretty accurate. The pistons are now a little bit more accurate. So we've got a fairly light piston with a fairly heavy small end part of the rod, the weight of the small end. And then if we have fairly heavy piston here, 352.5, and a fairly light small end. So we're balancing out the whole rod assembly as best as we can without doing any machine work first. So that was my top tip. Spend the time doing your numbers, getting it all out in front of you, and then you can hand swap and get that average down. We started at 1.7 grams difference between the lightest and the heaviest, and now we're at 0.5 grams, and I haven't done anything. All I've done no machining. All I've done is just moved around a few parts, and that's the difference.